Inside NASCAR, a weekly 30-minute look at the men and machines that make up the world's most popular motorsport. With your host, Ned Jarrett and Steve Burns. Brought to you in part by Piedmont Airlines, the official airlines of NASCAR.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside NASCAR. There was no NASCAR Winston Cup race this past weekend. Their next race is the Pepsi Firecracker 400 at Daytona on July 4th.
We've got a little bit of a breather after the race at Michigan, but we do have plenty to talk about on today's show.
We'll show you the most unique way to arrive at a racetrack, by railway. The Norfolk Southern Historical Chapter runs an express from Roanoke, Virginia to the Martinsville Speedway, a beautiful route through the Blue Ridge Mountains. We'll take those of you who couldn't be on the train along for the ride.
And Mark Allen has more of his in-depth interview with Les Richter, NASCAR's Vice President of Competition and Development. Today, Les addresses the issue of in-season rule changes.
And we'll take a preview look at the upcoming Firecracker 400 July 4th at Daytona Beach, Florida. A lot of mid-season bonus money is on the line. Stay with us.
In 1969, man flew farther than ever before.
Even one, you're looking good. So are you, Houston.
But as far as flying has come, it still has a long way to go, especially flying to many smaller cities back home. At Piedmont, we fly to places other major airlines don't, linking the smaller cities with the bigger cities over 1,000 times a day. Because Piedmont believes a trip here shouldn't feel like you're making a trip there.
Enter the world of Timex quartz. Great looks that can take a licking. The Timex Triathlon has an 8-lap memory chronograph. It's for men and women of iron. This Timex sports quartz is water resistant to 100 meters. The Timex Black Max quartz, flat out excitement. The world of Timex quartz is tough to beat.
Welcome back, everyone. There is a lot of bonus money available here at mid-season from Winston. That $150,000 has already been locked up by Dale Earnhardt. No one can pass him, even though the money is not distributed until after the Firecracker 400. But second through 10 positions are still wide open.
Wide open, and we'll see some fireworks at the Firecracker, I'm sure. And Ned, we need to do a little house cleaning. We made a mistake last week. We were showing a comparison that the money paid out in 1980, the total purse money, was 6.1 in comparison with about 15.5 million this year. But we typed in 1.5 million. What's a decimal point among friends? But anyways, we apologize for the error.
Only 14 million, but I'll tell you, the drivers appreciate the money that is put up now. Let's hear from some of them.
The Winston Cup Tour will come full circle July 4th at Daytona with the running of the Firecracker 400. In recent years, the Firecracker has more than lived up to its name, providing some of the most exciting and surprising finishes in Winston Cup racing. Last year, Greg Sachs stunned Bill Elliott and the racing world with his first ever Winston Cup victory. In 1984, after locking horns with Cale Yarborough in a classic finish, Richard Petty made history, scoring his 200th career win. Looking for win 201, Petty explains the lure of Daytona.
Well, it's just like going home. You know, you're glad to be there, you're glad to having another race there, and you just really can't wait to get out there and start running again. So I think it's a situation where basically, I guess if I was calling anything, Daytona's my second home as far as I like the place and I like the racetrack also.
Ready to run especially hard at the Firecracker will be 10 or so drivers vying for $500,000 in mid-season bonus money. Dale Earnhardt's already clinched his first place share of $150,000, but after him, the logjam begins. Darrell Waltrip precariously holds down the second place share of $100,000, but fast-rising Bill Elliott lurks just 84 points behind. The loss or gain of $35,000 is at stake between third place Elliott and fourth place Bobby Allison. Only a scant 7 points separate the two. Young bucks Tim Richmond and Rusty Wallace follow in 5th and 6th, where the difference is only 4 points. From 6th on back, 50 points or less separate each position. Even 11th place Bobby Hillen and 12th place Kyle and Richard Petty could get into the act. It's easy to see how the loss or gain of a points position or two could mean the loss or gain of thousands of dollars. The significance of this Firecracker 400 and the bonus payout is on every driver's mind.
Realistically, we probably are not going to be able to overtake Earnhardt. So right now we've got to think about, there's $100,000 at stake for second place. So we got to think about, let's don't do anything foolish and blow second place.
As close as the points are between the 3 or 4 or 5 cars, you're going to have to go run as hard as you can. If you fall out, that's just the way it's going to be.
I'm not too far behind Darrell, and then I have some guys that are right close on my heels. So it's a two-way deal. We'll be looking ahead and we'll be looking behind on that points thing.
I'm definitely thinking about the money, but you know, you got to think about the races and run as hard as you can and try to win races. If you do that, the points are going to come.
It looks a little doubtful that we're going to get into that real big point money at mid-season, but we haven't given up. Fellas could have some problems that are in front of us right now. We could pick up several positions here real quick.
Well, Steve, it'll be interesting to see if we can have another upset this year like last year when Greg Sachs pulled off the victory.
He pulled into victory lane in a research and development car. That was a long shot win. Last week, Ned, we had part 1 of Mark Allen's interview with Les Richter, a NASCAR official, about NASCAR's policy of allowing the GM body designs to run when you don't see that design car in your showroom in your hometown. This week, Les addresses something equally controversial.
Why they changed rules in mid-season.
From what you said before, then it would sound like, if necessary, you would make the changes necessary in your competitive rules to even up the competition at basically whatever cost to give the fans their money's worth. Is that accurate?
Well, yeah, but in the case of the Elliots, the Elliott family, I don't think that the credit has been fully given to them for their performance in 1985. Because when we look at their dominance of 1985, they were superior in many ways, and the other Fords were running pretty close to all the other makes of General Motor cars. And it's puzzling, and it's the mystique of the Elliott family continues to puzzle us as we go along, but it's to their credit. They're doing a good job. They're working hard at it, and that makes a lot of other people work hard. And at the same time, it makes our inspectors work more diligently and cautiously, because we want to make sure everybody's trying to do it the way the rules are prescribed.
So a lot of people felt last year that the in-season rule changes that were made were as a result of the Elliots.
Well, as the year went on, I think we started seeing a greater disparity in cars that were running. It wasn't just the Elliots. I think we saw a disparity in the cars, and our past history has reflected that we're concerned about what the supportive fans' attitude is, and they want to see good, tight competition. They all have their favorites. They all have their favorite makes of cars, but I am sure that the majority of the fans that come here, they don't want to see one car lap the field or several cars lap the field. I think they want to see good, close competition coming down to the wire, slingshot around the last turn, and a photo finish. And those are the things that we continually work for. I would say one thing that we're working on right now is to look at all aspects of the car, the racing car, as we're discussing here, to ensure that it has as stock appearing looks as we can possibly make it, and yet do all the things you have to do with the roll cage and the heavy-duty suspension and what have you, to make that car have a stock appearance.
Yet be safe.
And be a safe car, because NASCAR's #1 prescribed rule is safety first.
Steve, Les Richter is a former athlete himself. He was a linebacker with the LA Rams.
And that might be why NASCAR hired him. Nobody will argue with him.
That's right.
When we come back, we're going to have a real neat story for you. We're going to take a train ride from Roanoke, Virginia to the beautiful Speedway in Martinsville, so stay with us.
Richard Petty talks about his all-time driving headaches.
Daytona 76, that was definitely a goodie. Charlotte 72, that was another goodie. Michigan 84, that was a real goodie. I've won over 200 races, but I've had over 700 headaches. So just take it from me, goodies gets rid of the pain fast, and that's what counts.
Goody's headache powders and extra strength tablets.
When the big Q flows, America goes.
Hey, that truck runs and we don't.
Only gets Big Q. Quaker State.
You can depend on number one.
You know, Pop, they start with Pennsylvania grade crude.
Nothing like Quaker State.
A unique formula. Stable viscosity, keeps the oil flowing, protecting, no matter what.
No substitute for quality. I got two great partners.
Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Available at your local Kmart Automotive Center.
Steve, I've been around auto racing for more than 30 years and have seen people come to the race in just about every mode of transportation but a train.
That's right, we've seen them come in jets and helicopters, U-Hauls, Winnebagos, but on the way to Martinsville, the way to go is by train. If you were looking at parts of downtown Roanoke, Virginia in black and white, 1986 looks a lot more like 1926.
How y'all doing today?
We're doing just fine, thank you. And it's a terrific day to head to the racetrack via the clackety-clack of the train tracks. The Norfolk Southern Historical Society will run excursions to other parts of the country, but the Martinsville Express chugs on down the line only once or twice a year. The Martinsville Speedway is the only racetrack in the world that is serviced by train. Truly a unique way to arrive and in grand style to boot.
The equipment itself is a combination of railroad equipment and a lot of Railway Historical Society and our different railroad clubs. We've got equipment here from Ohio, from other eastern parts of Virginia and various other places. We've combined 17 cars. We've got coaches, we've got round-in observation, we've got 2 sleepers on board. 17 of the cars are chartered by different area businesses here in the Roanoke Valley that are involved in racing, or at least their companies are involved in racing.
For the front end of the train will by and large be the Coca-Cola crowd, if you know what I mean. The rear half of the train will be the beer crowd. So those of you who have the rear train, you'd be advised that it goes with the territory.
It's a leisurely way to get down there. It's different businesses take this opportunity to entertain, and as opposed to just driving down or in a bus, you're able to mingle and talk and move around the train and meet your friends on board. It's a family way of getting down there.
On aboard!
Finally, it's time to go, but this is no race to the race. The trip is extremely casual and relaxing, a chance to see a beautiful part of our country.
In the April, it's the dogwoods are out. It's a springtime. We're going through the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. It's 72 miles from Roanoke all the way down to the Speedway itself, and it's crooked. There isn't a straight mile in the whole track going down there, and you're just winding around the mountains and the creeks, and it's a very pastoral area.
Now this is a wonderful commune with nature, but just when you're about to become hypnotized by the Blue Ridge beauty, a huge helping of Americana is dished out, bluegrass style.
Let's see here. I'd say we go this way. Yeah, let's go. All aboard!
Ned, it's been a long time since I've been on a train, and I had a blast. Now, you're busy. You're at the track to do your MRM broadcast. I think that's something you'd really enjoy.
Well, I'll tell you, that country music, in particular the bluegrass, I'd love that. I might try that one day. When we come back, we'll have the mailbox, the latest news, and more, so you stay with us.
At Piedmont, every one of our jets gets a regular checkup. We take it apart, go over it inch by inch, check out hundreds of thousands of rivets, and examine every one of its over 92,000 parts inside and out. Piedmont's physical fitness program. Over 2,000 people who never get off the ground help keep us the up-and-coming airline.
At some places, getting tender chicken isn't always easy. And what you may wind up with is one tough bird. At Kentucky Fried Chicken, we start with plump, tender chicken. Then we cook it the Colonel's special way, so it's tender and delicious, bite after bite after bite. So for great tasting chicken you can sink your teeth into, come to the chicken experts. Because when it comes to tender chicken, ours is a real knockout.
Kentucky Fried Chicken, we do chicken right.
Ned, looking at that points race, I can't wait for the second half of the season to see Earnhardt and Waltrip go at it, and the rest of the guys, too.
I tell you, I think it'll be super competitive, and I believe it'll go right down to the wire again.
It's time now for our mailbox. Our first question today comes from Terry Price of New Paris, Pennsylvania. He's one of our younger viewers, Ned, just 12 years old, but he's got a good question. Terry writes, do the engine builders put the engines on dynos before a race? If so, how many horsepower does it develop? Well, for that answer, we'll go to Ray Fox Jr., who builds engines with Robert Yates, and they build engines for several teams on the Winston Cup Tour.
Well, Terry, we take all engines after we build them, and we have a dyno here that we put the engines on, and basically we put them on there to break them in, to check them out. You know, we run real high lift cams. You ask about horsepower. Well, like Daytona, we try to have an engine that run about 630, 635 horsepower at Daytona. On a short track, it's obvious you don't run wide open, and you have to get back in the gas, has to be quick and responsive. So maybe on a short track, we might have an engine that might produce like 600 to 610 horsepower, which would be less that we run in Daytona because we don't need to we're not after high speed, we're after torque. So basically you have a 610 horsepower for short track, and like Daytona, you'd be 635, 640. And we put all our engines on the dyno here. We break them in, break the cams in, seat the rings in, make sure there's no oil leaks, retorque the heads, and we set the timing on it and adjust the carburetors. And basically when we come off of here, we can go to a racetrack and be prepared to run the engine. If we have to put it in, don't get to practice much with it, we can go out there and run the engine wide open and not have any problems, and that's why we do it this way.
Ray's dad, Ray Fox Sr., is a member of the Hall of Fame. He was one of the top car builders in the early days of racing. Our second question comes from Charlie Meyer of Roselle, Illinois, who writes, the non-locking or anti-lock braking system on the Corvette is the brake of the future. I've not seen them on the Winston Cup circuit. Were they ever used, and why don't we see them on NASCAR cars? We put that question to Gary Nelson, who's the crew chief on Jeff Bodine's car.
Well, Charlie, your question about anti-lock brake systems is definitely one that I've asked myself. And I think the biggest reason we don't have anti-lock brakes on the cars as of yet is probably the same reason that anti-lock brake systems aren't on every passenger car. It's getting converted, applying the idea. We agree, we all, myself and all of the engineers I've talked with, agree that the anti-lock brake system is the way to go. It's got to be better and safer than what we're running now, but there's a lot of development that needs to take place. You know, the Corvette and some of the foreign cars are coming out with it just now. But in this case, the race cars are going to have to learn from the production cars on how to apply that kind of idea to the race cars. The electronics are pretty complicated, and also the system itself is going to take a whole redesign to get it to work. But in the near future, I don't think there'll be any race cars without anti-lock brakes.
Friends, if your question is used on an upcoming segment of Inside NASCAR, you'll receive this beautiful Timex stopwatch. Timex is the official timekeeper of NASCAR, and this watch is just like the ones the NASCAR teams use. In addition, we'll send you this new 1986 NASCAR yearbook and press guide. 288 colorful pages full of exciting information about NASCAR racing. Write to us today at Inside NASCAR, Post Office Box 240417, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28224. And thanks again to everyone who writes.
Now for the latest news. 9-time NASCAR National Modified Champion Richie Evans has been voted into the National Motorsports Press Association Hall of Fame. He will be inducted in ceremonies at Florence, South Carolina on Saturday night, August 30th. That's the night before the Southern 500 race at Darlington. Evans was killed in a one-car wreck during practice at Martinsville, Virginia last October. Larry Pearson, Charlie Luck, and Bosco Lowe took some training at the Road Atlanta course. Dale Jarrett this week attended the Bondurant High Performance School of Driving in California. Terry Labonte, one of NASCAR's best road racers, has entered the Road Atlanta event. Our time's up for today. Hope that you enjoyed the show. We want to invite you to be with us here next week. We'll have an in-depth interview with Robert Yates, one of the top engine builders on the NASCAR Winston Cup circuit, and he's back now after a short layoff.
He left racing early this year to go into private industry, but he's back at it and going full speed ahead.
That's just one of the stories we'll have. We'll have the latest news, the mailbox, and more. So you be with us right here on Inside NASCAR.
Companies have paid a promotional fee to Inside NASCAR. The Pit Golf Links, one of the nation's most unique championship golf courses. Survive the challenge of the Pit if you can. The newest addition to the Pinehurst tradition, the Pit, Pinehurst, North Carolina. Ground transportation for Inside NASCAR is provided by Choo Choo Custom Vans, Chattanooga, Tennessee, specializing in Chevrolet, vans, pickups, Blazers, and Astros. Inside NASCAR's high-performance camera car, this turbocharged Regal Grand National, provided by the Buick division of General Motors.